Hey, this is Dave for Dave is Just Dave, where we explore abuse recovery with an eye on positive attraction in the future. And today I wanted to just kind of talk about an interesting concept that I got from a story that a friend told me. And the idea of it is that you might be upset that you're in your life kind of collecting ex-boyfriends or ex-girlfriends or just exes in general. Could be non-binary exes or anywhere on the gender spectrum. But as you collect these ex-boyfriends or ex-girlfriends or whatever, you're upset at, why didn't it work out? Why didn't it work out, and why hasn't it worked out so many times? And it can be easy to be upset about that. But one friend of mine very recently shared this story that she, quote, needed every one of her ex-boyfriends, which many of them she would describe as not good, and she needed every one to be attracted to her current boyfriend, who she's engaged to, actually. So I'm going to say that again. She needed every ex-boyfriend in order to be attracted to her current fiance. She literally doesn't believe that she would even be attracted to her current fiance were it not for ex-boyfriends. Now, I had never really thought about this in this way, but I feel like it's a powerful idea that depending on what our life experience is, we obviously could meet somebody, and right, we undoubtedly all have, that would be kind of perfect for us, and we would miss it in that, as hard as it may be to believe, we wouldn't even have been attracted to this person at the time that they crossed paths with us. And we wouldn't be attracted to a similar person until the exact sort of trajectory of our life had been changed by the relationships that we had in order to be attracted to a person that represents a healthy attraction for us. So when we think about the law of attraction, you hear a lot about that. I think it's kind of mysterious, but seems to be fundamentally true that the law of attraction is kind of such that, you're going to attract what you are. So if you're insecure, it's very likely that you might attract an insecure person. If you're secretive, you may attract a secretive person, and so on. And so as you become more and more healthy, it becomes more and more likely that you'll attract another healthy person that's healthy for you. So when you're in these abusive relationships, or you have more narcissistic type connections or toxic connections, it becomes unlikely that, coming right out of that, you're going to make a perfect choice for your next partner. And so this kind of gets into the nature of human problem solving, which is, in my opinion, to overcorrect and then divide somewhere in the middle. So we can see this with like a golf swing or bowling or whatever hobbies you might have. If you're slicing the ball, you're going to kind of overcorrect, and then maybe you're going to hook it, and then you're going to get somewhere in the middle, and for a while when you're in stroke, you're going to be able to drive the ball straight. And I think it's similar with relationships, that you will attract people. First you'll be with that abusive person. A very likely next step, probably would be another abusive person, unfortunately, depending on if you don't recover from it fully. But let's say you do recover from it. Now, for the lack of a better word, you might attract a more boring person, because you're being, and I don't mean boring in a bad way, but what I mean is it lacks passion, right? There's a passion that's lacking. But because you're so still hurting, you're kind of overcorrecting for kindness and generosity. And not that these things are bad, but maybe at their ultimate end, they're unlikely to produce passion. kind of an interesting idea that I heard about recently is that in relationships, if there's 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative reaction, the relationship ends, because even that is too much negativity. However, if there's 11 positive reactions for each negative reaction, that relationship also ends, because that's too much positivity, which is hard to believe, but we really want to be challenged. And that's kind of what creates passion in relationships. So you're shooting for somewhere in between 5 and 11 per negative interaction. So you want to have a great time with somebody and then occasionally disagree and then learn from it. And so when you overcorrect, you're going to get probably more the like 13 positive interactions for every 1 negative. Or you might even have 0 negatives, if you're really seeking out kind people. And this is kind of the fundamental disconnect of a lot of the advice that you would receive on a lot of channels about relationships, which are more kind of like send the perfect text, or the perfect thing to say on your first date, or how to create attraction on the phone, or whatever, right? And these things, I think they absolutely have value to take a look at. But they sort of operate on an idea, in my opinion, that is something like this, that let's say you're an insecure person, but you're seeking to attract somebody who's not insecure. Essentially, these like send the best text and, make the best opening line type channels would have you believe that you could successfully mask your insecurity long enough to allow somebody to fall in love with you. And I'm sorry, but I think this is absolutely not true. And this is where all of the advice about sending the perfect text, etc., yeah, that might get your foot in the door. And certainly you wouldn't want to lose out on a great person because you had kind of an overwhelming moment of insecurity that you expressed in a text. And that moment was momentary, right? That it really didn't represent who you are. Now that's important to caution yourself against and be careful with, and that's where those channels probably have relevance. However, if those things, whether it's insecurity or jealousy or a lot of these negative things that you might be bringing into a relationship, if those represent where you are at the time, you are not going to be able to hide it, nor should you. But you would need somebody, if you were going to make a successful connection at that time, to understand, hey, I'm kind of an insecure person, and sometimes I'm going to reach out with some insecure thoughts about my appearance or whatever, and I need somebody who's going to not run away when that happens. So the idea that you're going to just hide that all the time, I'm sorry, but I think it's honestly probably completely ridiculous. So don't worry about sending the perfect text as much as you can possibly not worry about it. Send whatever text you like. And if that person doesn't like you and you look at that text and go, nope, this is really who I am, then who cares? Who cares? Because you're looking for that person that's really going to be attracted to you. So if you've been collecting ex-boyfriends or ex-girlfriends or ex-non-binary people that have been involved in your life in a romantic way and you're upset about it, keep in mind that that journey of all of the exes really might be leading you to a point where, as you kind of overcorrect and divide, finally, that right person is going to walk into your life and you are going to be attracted to them head over heels. And as hard as it may be to believe, 5 years ago or 2 years ago or 6 months ago, you wouldn't even have noticed them. That's pretty crazy to think about, but beautiful, I think. So stay tuned for more videos like this on the topics of recovery and abuse. If you have thoughts or feelings you'd like to share, I'd love to see them in the comments. And if you do find this content valuable, would really appreciate it if you would share it with somebody who you think might benefit from it, and perhaps give a like or subscribe. And thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos. Thanks.